Sorry. Gershon, I promise you, Gershon, that was a complete accident. Gershon, I promise. I was switching phones on my computer. It's the second time I did it. I never. Jaco, you're muted.
It was the one time we were able to hear Gershon.
That's right. Very good. Anyways, I hear your horror, Gershon. I hear your horror because it sounds like Morer has nothing to do with the rest of the korban Pesach. Okay. Okay, so let's see. But he could eat Pesach l'doros. Makro again, vavadata. That says avadata. Elisa, what do you need boy for? Boy, hamaras das paiselis. That's if somebody who is a mummer, that's going to passel the whole korban. Vein hamaras das paiselis but truma, and hamaras das does not passel by truma. Why do you need two different psukim of oral and ben necher? Seemingly the same thing, right? The ikas of Rachmana oral mishum demois. Oral is because it's disgusting. He doesn't have a bris. Aval ben necher loy mos, but a ben necher is not mos. So you would think he's not puzzle. So tzricha you need it. V'yash minam ben necher, and if you would say ben necher mishum de'ein libay l'shemayim, because he's not libay l'shemayim if he has. That's why he's puzzle, because he's a mummer. Aval oral to libay l'shemayim, but an oral who's labels to shemayim, he can't medically have a bris. So maybe you would think that he shouldn't be puzzled. So tzricha, that's what we need to say, that a ben nechar, meaning an apikairis, and a oral are not allowed to be part of the korban Pesach. So tzricha, that's what we needed. Ela me'ata, taishav v'sachir lo yochel boy. So it says a taishav and a sachir, those are types of avodim. One is taishav means he's longer than 6 years, and sachir is longer than 6 years, right? And sachir is less. Hachanami the boy who ain't oichel aval oichel b'pesach dairis. It's the same thing that only in the year the Mitzrayim one they are not allowed to eat the korban Pesach, but everybody else can. Amakrov avadata. So it says vavadata. Same thing that all the korbanos in Nisan have the same halachos. Ela boy lam. Eliezer, what do you need boy for? Boy him das peselas vein hamoras das peselas vein hamoras das peselas betruma. There, only in that one is a hamaras das puzzle, but for truma, hamaras das does not puzzle him from having truma. Right? So the question is, what does hamaras das have to do with taishav and sachir? Right? What shaychis? Right? Gershon is masking to the kasha. Yeah. Okay. Anyways, good. Yeah. Elamayata umalsa oisai az yochabai. When you give him a bris, then you eat it. Hachanami.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
A kohen, a kohen eating truma, a kohen who's an apikairis, not a regular
kohen.
Who's right, eating?
Kohen, yeah.
To eat.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, fine.
Yeah, I think so. Right, that's what it is. So the next passuk is an interesting din. I think a lot of people are not aware of this din. You have to give him a bris. This we learn out from this, that if you're the father of a kid who doesn't have a bris, you're also not allowed to bring the korban Pesach. That's what we learn from this. A father who has a son who doesn't have a bris cannot bring korban Pesach, or if he has an eved who doesn't have a bris. Right? So maybe it only means a Mitzrayim and not all future korbanos. Another same thing, that all korban Pesachs are equal. So what do you buy for? So buy milas charav avadav ma'akeves. Again, the same thing. For truma, it's not ma'akev. For Pesach, it is. Right? In order for a kohen to eat truma, it's not ma'akev. He could eat truma if his kids don't have a bris.
By the way, it's Tzviyagu.
Yeah.
On the kasha from before, Rashi changes the girsa because.
Does he? I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm just saying when I say
oh yeah. Okay. Very
now.
Good.
There's no time.
There you go. I'll look after. Very good. Very good. Thank you. Right? Don't break the bones. Only there you don't break it, but you can break it in the Pesach Dairis. Right? The same thing. Why boy? Boy be kosher v'loy be puzzle. Right? Only a kosher. Right? It's only a usher to break the bones of a kosher korban Pesach, but not a puzzle. Don't eat it getting like a whole chazor of all the psukim of korban Pesach. Don't eat it not fully cooked. Only the one in Mitzrayim, but the future Pesach you're allowed to eat raw or half cooked. That it says that all Pesachs are equal. So why does it say look at the Rabbi Omer of Yitzchak, for Rabbi B'Shem Reb Yitzchak, that he makes exer Shabbat to Ma'aser Sheni, right? That just like somebody without a bris, so can't eat it both. So then Mamela it applies to both. Okay, but that's that's also kasha. What Ma'aser Sheni has to do with this? Okay, so so then it says v'necha b'chipazon, right? And you eat it very quickly. How do you know? You eat the korban Pesach of Mitzrayim quickly. You only eat the korban Pesach of Mitzrayim quickly, but you don't have to eat the korban Pesach future generations quickly. Fine. The Pesach of Dairis is Naya Kol Shiva. Amai Koi. What's that going on? Ilema Pesach. If it's going on the korban Pesach Kol Shiva Mi'ika. We don't eat korban Pesach all 7 days. Right? How can you say that we eat the korban Pesach all 7 days? Now onto Amud Beis. Ela chametz. It must be going on chametz. So mechlal the Pesach Mitzrayim laila echad v'sulai, that they only had to stay away from chametz the first night of Pesach, and that's it, not the day. It took me a while to figure out that was the Gemara's kasha. That the day. Vatani Rabbi Yosef Glili, the Pesach Mitzrayim she'ein chimutz enoig ela yoim echad, and Rashi says yoim echad is the whole day, not just the night. The Gemara in the Havamida thinks only the night when you're eating the korban Pesach you have to stay away from chametz, but the next day, first day, you could eat chametz in Mitzrayim. That's what the Gemara is thinking, but the Brisa clearly says that the entire first day, from Shkia to Shkia, you're not allowed to. You should not eat chametz. And it says today you're leaving, right? So it means the entire day. This is what the passuk means. This is what the Mishna means. The first night, and for Pesach Dairis also. And the chimutz is the entire day, right? Meaning the first night is the korban Pesach supposed to be eaten the first night, but chametz is not supposed to be eaten the whole day. Pesach Dairis Naya Kol Shiva, and the Pesach of Dairis is Naya all 7 days.
So the first year they didn't do it all 7 days, just 1 day.
Right.
Chametz.
Correct. Yes, exactly. But the whole day, so it comes out there was 3 different zmanim in the first. Well, it's not 3 different zmanim, meaning they ate the korban Pesach at night, but they weren't allowed to have chametz that night and the next day, and that was it. Then Pesach was over, right? And then for Pesach Dairis, we can't eat chametz all 7 days. Fine. Okay, now starts the hard sugya. I'm not that the previous sugya was a walk in the park, but that was drushes. Yes, Omer Rabbi Shua has something called Tumah as a hakdama. Something called Tumah. Tumah is pshat that you can. It's an isser. It's an isser to do Tumah. That's the interesting thing. You are not allowed to swap one animal for another animal. Let's say I have a korban shlavim, and I decide, you know what, this guy looks like he could be a good racing cow, right? So you're not allowed to swap it for another cow. But if you did, then both cows get kedusha. Right? That's what the Tumah. That's what
it's a wild love. Like
yes.
Well,
I know it's and also there's a whole masechta based on something you did wrong, right? A whole masechta Tumah. You mean what? Why are we giving so much credence? You're not supposed to do this, right? Okay, shine.
It's like having a masechta named ham sandwich.
Right, very good. Right, yeah. So Zog the Mishnah. So Rabbi Shua, Shamati shetmuras Pesach kreva. I heard that if you take a korban Pesach and swap it out, but it's interesting. Rashi here also talk about. I don't want to make litzanas here, but Shamati. Where did he hear it from? May Rabbi say, what's Rashi telling you? He didn't hear it in the street or by a kiddush or by this. He heard it, like this wasn't a rumor or was on a, he heard it from his rebbeim, Anyway, so Shamati shutmuras Pesach kreva, that if you swap out your Pesach, you can bring it. Utmuras Pesach ain't a kreva. And I also heard that it can't be brought. Right? Vainly the farish, and I have no pshat. Meaning each psak that he heard, it seems to be a stira. So Rukiva ani a farish, I'll explain it. A Pesach shenim to koydem shchitas a Pesach, the korban Pesach that's found. If you find, now there's another thing. Let's say you lose your korban Pesach. This we had before. You lose your korban Pesach, right? So what do? You appoint another korban Pesach. But what happens if you find the old ones? And now you have 2 korban Pesachs that have kedusha. right? So Pesach shenim to koydem shchitas a Pesach. So if you have the korban Pesach that was found before the shchitas Pesach, right before the shchita, meaning you lost it, and then before you shechted it, you found it. So then what do? You're actually the original korban Pesach, you put it out until it gets a mum, and then you macher and then sell it. V'yavi b'dam of shlomim, then you bring a korban shlomim, because we said a korban Pesach is essentially a shlomim. V'chein tmura, saying the same thing if you swapped it out, right? Then the original korban Pesach is you don't bring it. Acha shchitas a Pesach, but after the shchitas a Pesach, korav shlomim, then you can bring it as a shlomim. V'chein tmura, saying the same thing with the tmura. So that's the difference in the stira. Rabbi Akiva is saying the difference in the stira is whether you found it before the shchita or after the shchita. Okay, so what comes out from the Mishna is that there's a nafkamina between the two cases, Saifa the korban Pesach and Saifa the Tumah. So why is the Mishna just addressing Tumah and not Pesach? So that's the Gemara's kasha. V'leima Pesach karav, Pesach lo ain't a karav. Why are you going with Tumah? Why don't you just say it? There's a stira. Sometimes the korban Pesach, the original korban Pesach is brought, sometimes it's not brought. Right? So Kamash Malan, so the Gemara is saying the Ika Tumah is a Pesach, the loy karav. There is the Tumah of a korban Pesach that doesn't get brought, how it gets swapped out. So let's see. Itmar, Rabba Omar, Koidem Shchita, Ula'acha Shchita Sheninu. We said before Shchita and after Shchita, meaning if you find the original korban Pesach before or after Shchita. Reb Zera Omar, Koidem Chatzais, Ula'acha Chatzais Sheninu. Reb Zera says, no, it doesn't mean before the Shchita, it means before Chatzais and after Chatzais. Why? Because that's the Zman Shchita. So it doesn't necessarily have to be until you actually shech the korban Pesach. No, it's until this man, which is chatzai. So the Reb Zera, Katani Koidem Shchitas Pesach. According to Reb Zera, the Mishnah says Koidem Shchitas Pesach. So why is he saying chatzai? Ema Koidem Zman Shchitas Pesach. No, let's say he means before this man, which is chatzai. Ketanoi is a Machlokes tanoim. A Pesach shenim to Koidem Shchita. If you have the korban Pesach that's found before the actual shchita, you send it out to graze until it becomes a mum, and then you sell it. Lachar shchita you karav. After shchita you can be makrivit. Right before chatzos you let it. What do you call it? After chatzos you makrivit. So then we said if you find it after the shchitas a pesach, you bring it as a shlomim. So Amar Rava said that's only if you found it after shchita, meaning the original korban, and you did the tmura. This guy's very busy with his korbanos because he seems like he has three of them, right? The original, the replacement, and then a tmura, right? But if you find the original before shchita, but you do the tmura after shchita, then the tmura comes from a kedusha that's really pushed away because it's no longer kaddish because you already found the original one. And you're not allowed to bring it. So Abaya says, it says in the passuk im kesef. It says if you bring a kesef, a lamb. Matam lemer im kesef. What is it saying? A lamb. The rabbi is tmuras a pesach achar a pesach. It comes to include that if you do a swap of the pesach after you already shafted the korban pesach, shakar v'shlomim, then what you do is you makrav it as a shlomim. So then what's the case? Hechidam. Ilay meshinim to achar shchita v'imir by achar shchita. If he found it after shchita and he did the tmura after shchita, then it's pashat. Lamali krov. I need a passuk for that, right? It can be broad because it was never puzzle. Elalav shenimtza kaidem shchita v'himer by acha shchita. It must be where it's found before shchita, and he swapped it out after shchita. So anyone says no. Lailam shenimtza acha shchita v'himer by acha shchita. You found the original korban Pesach after the shchita, and you did the tmura after shchita. Across smachta ba'alma. When the pasuk is just a smachta ba'alma. So then the word says elakra l'mayasos. And what's the pasuk coming to tell you? It's not teaching us the din. It's just an asmachta. What's it coming to tell you? Kedatanya kesef l'rabis is a Pesach la'alya. The kesef is coming to tell you that you have to burn even the tail, the fatty tail. Because shloimer im kesef, because it says im kesef l'rabis Pesach sha'avra shnasai. It's coming to include a Pesach who it's a year past a year old. Ushlamim haban machmas Pesach, and it's coming for a shlamim that's coming because of the Pesach, which is a tmura, right? Which you swapped out the korban Pesach, so it becomes a shlamim. The whole mitzvah shlamim shetan smicha nesachim tnu b'schazav v'shay. That's shlamim, and that it needs shlamim and nesachim. I'm not shlamim. They need smicha nesachim, and you have to wave it too. Ukishu aimer va'im eis. It's in it says v'im eis hifsek inyan. It's mafsek. Basically, there's two parshas in the Torah, 5 psukim each. One is about a kesef and one is about an eis, saying the exact same thing. So why is the Torah going at length? Why don't you just say the same things apply? So what we're saying, im eiz is limit ala eiz she'ain tuna alya. The eiz, the goat, does not need the fatty tail. Okay, the island's got to go down, so I guess we'll stop here. I wanted to go a little more than this, but I guess we'll stop. Better Daf Mincha than to. Okay, tomorrow, Bez Hashem, we'll continue. It's a hard Daf, so it's not
What
just
time
because
tomorrow?
you're tired. 4:40 also. 4:40.
Shkoyach, thank you.
The island should have a Freilich
Right.
Pattur.
What do you want me? What do you want me to bring? Menachas?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah, take a little
No
more.
Nesakim in this day and age.
What?
No
We
Nesakim.
decided.